Welcome back to another episode of the Movie Nights Podcast. My name is Dalton Burdett, and if you're watching this, it's because you want to hear my uncensored and unfiltered thoughts and opinions about the world of movies. And joining me today, we actually have a little special guest, everyone, all 7 of you. Something that I want to start doing on the show is not only just bringing in different guests every week if I can. Sorry if you hear people working, by the way. And forgive my whole appearance, I'm at a new place. We're still not done moving. But something that I want to start doing is bringing more people onto the show just to get some fresh perspectives, and especially just people who love movies, love this kind of stuff. And right now I'm with someone who is a kind of wannabe film student, film enthusiast. He's young, he's fresh, he's hip, and he's here to talk about movies. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Heiler. Chris, how's it going, buddy?
It's going really well. Thank you for saying that I at all have an interest in film. That was actually really nice.
No problem. Just gotta tell the good people what needs to be said, and the truth. God, they won't stop out there. Don't worry, guys. I'm gonna mute my mic whenever I'm not talking. But yeah. So also sorry for the grainy Zoom camera stuff. Just that I'm not nearly ready to start setting up everything because I'm still editing a very, very long movie. And once that gets done, we'll get back to normal. Jeez, they will not stop. Of course, right when we start doing this, Chris. But yeah, so we have a lot to cover today. And then at the end, I'm going to, hit Chris with a little interview style thing just so you guys can learn more about him and his interests and what he likes specifically. But we're going to go ahead and kick it off with our first story. This one I'm pulling from Deadline. Apparently, there's going to be an Addams Family TV show coming from none other than Tim Burton. This is sort of a match made in heaven that I'm surprised hasn't happened yet. But not only is it going to be a TV show, it's going to be a live action TV show. And it'll kind of be I think it's the first time Tim Burton's even dabbled in TV at all. And if you read amongst the reports in the exclusive, several streaming services are bidding to get this project because obviously they're like, Tim Burton's doing Addams Family. Oh shit, we need to, everyone, just spend everything. Get it now. And apparently it's going to take place in modern day from the perspective of Wednesday Addams, and it's being shopped around the different streaming services. So, Chris, I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think of this happening, and do you think that this is a good or interesting choice?
This is interesting because not only do I love Tim Burton, like I love The Nightmare. Nightmare Before Christmas is one of my favorite movies. I love that. But also like all his other stuff. Like I don't know if I want to show you, but I have a little pop that's the scene from Batman 84,
oh yeah, the 89 Batman with
89
Joker. Yes, I've seen it.
where they're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I also love the Addams Family. I was never into the TV show, but I was into the musical because that was a musical we did one year in my school when I was in it.
Yes, very cool.
And so I really like the Addams Family, so I'm really excited for that. I am cautious. Did you see the Addams Family movie that came out last year?
I did not see that.
It was really bad. So I am excited that it's going to be from the perspective of Wednesday because she's not only the most interesting character, also the musicals from her perspective. And while I didn't like the movie that came out last year, she was the only interesting thing about it. So I feel like she should be the character that you focus on. So I'm actually really, really excited for that. Not just because Addams Family, but also Tim Burton. And not just because of Tim Burton, but also Addams Family.
Yes, and because I'm Tim Burton's hit or miss for me, but the things that I like that he's done, I don't just like. I love them. Like I love his 2 Batman movies. I love Beetlejuice. I love Sweeney Todd. Like so, the stuff that he's done that I enjoy, I really like. Except he also did what's it called? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which scarred me. So it's like there are some things where it's like, I think he's great here. I think he's not great here. But this Addams Family just seems like the perfect thing for him to tackle. And I'm, for one, like you, am very excited about this. And I'm curious to see what all they're going to tackle. Like if we're going to hear anything about COVID, because apparently it takes place in modern times. How modern is it going to be? So, we'll see. And yeah. And I wonder, he's probably going to direct every episode, or at least the pilot. I wonder how much he's actually writing, though, because that information wasn't really prevalent in the article. That's probably not a word. Oh well. But yeah, no. So we're gonna go ahead and carry on to our next story, and this one I saved for a few reasons. The headline of the story is There's going to be a Battlestar Galactica movie based off of the old TV show and the old miniseries, big in sci-fi. And it's going to be written and produced by Simon Kinberg. For those of you who don't know, Simon Kinberg is a writer and producer of many of Fox's Marvel movies. He did a bunch of X-Men movies. He did some of the Fantastic Four movies. And while as a writer and producer, he's pretty decent, he's only directed one thing before, and that was Dark Phoenix, which Chris is one of the 7 people on planet Earth who likes that movie. So now he's not directing Battlestar Galactica. At least it says that they're not pursuing him as a director. But as a writer and as a producer, he's very good and he's very talented. So while I've never personally watched the series before, I know of it and I know its basic premise, and its basic premise is very fascinating and very thought-provoking. And, this is the guy who wrote Days of Future Past, so he knows how to tackle subjects like this. So I am curious to see this movie. It'll probably get me to watch the show once I start seeing more things of it. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on Simon Kinberg and Battlestar Galactica. And, I had to throw in Dark Phoenix some there just to get the conversation going. But yeah, go ahead and give me some of your thoughts, Chris.
Yeah, real quick, just before I get into that, I just thought this was funny because you mentioned Beetlejuice, and I'm literally wearing a Beetlejuice shirt right now.
Oh, I did. Oh, dude, that's so awesome. I didn't even see it.
Yeah, it's from my theater thing. We make T-shirts with like different movies and plays, and this one was Beetlejuice.
That is so
but moving on, I don't really know anything about Battlestar Galactica. The only thing I know of it is what I've seen from The Office, so I really have no knowledge of it.
Yeah.
Though I do, I don't know a lot about Simon Kinberg, though I do love X-Men Days of Future Past. So if he writes it like he wrote that movie, it'll be amazing. And while I do accept that Dark Phoenix is not a good movie, this is what I say about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I say about the movie. It is 60% a good movie, and it is 30% a bad movie. Or no, it's 40%. Sorry, I did math wrong there. It's 40% a bad movie. It's fine. You wanna split here? 50? No, fine. 40-60 good bad. All right. There are a lot of bad things, but one of the things that I think is actually good is I do like how he directed it. And I like the fact that he sort of owns up to it now. Because like anytime people talk,
that is true.
He's like, that's what I wanted to make, and if you don't like it, that's fine. And that's one of the things I really respect about him. So I'm excited for that. I don't really know anything about this, so I can't be too excited, but I will look forward to seeing. He has my attention after Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, and basically like the basic, if you like Spark Note premise, the Battlestar Galactica story, it's basically, it has tons of lore that like, humanity was split up into 12 different sections, and then this race of people started taking out humans. And basically when the miniseries starts, there's only one ship left of all human beings, and the ship is called the Battlestar Galactica. And they're trying to defeat the alien race that's been wiping them out. And so, but apparently there's tons of lore, there's tons of backstory, which make it interesting. And I haven't watched it, so I can't speak to it. But I've spoken to people who have watched the series, and they say the thing that appeals to them is the deep lore that it unveils as you watch it. So that's very interesting to me. So at some point, I'll watch the miniseries, some of the show, and I'll definitely see the movie when it comes out. But yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting that he's going to get involved in more things. We're going to go ahead and plow on to our next story. This one comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter. This one's interesting. The Meg came out either last year or 2 years ago. And 18. And it made a lot of money. It made so much money that they're going to make a sequel. But not only are they going to make a sequel, they got Ben Wheatley to direct this thing. And for those of you who don't know, Ben Wheatley is an independent filmmaker. He's made a lot of stuff over in the UK. He's directed some Doctor Who episodes, and he also made a movie a couple years ago called Free Fire, which was hit or miss for me, but the Ben Wheatley aspects of the movie, if you will, I enjoyed very much. And you can tell that he has a style, he has a sense of what he likes to do, and he's very, down to earth in that way. And he knows when to be ridiculous. Like in Free Fire, for example, it was like a shoot 'em up type movie, and whenever a bullet would miss, it would do like the Western, like pew, like the sound effects, and it was so awesome. But the fact that he's going to be making the Meg 2 just blows my mind that they went out, because like normally with this kind of movie, you'd get a filmmaker who's just good at big bombastic blockbuster things, but they got somebody who's known for being the exact opposite. And I think he can pull it off well, but the thing in my head is like, are they trying to make The Meg 2 like a good movie? Like, what are they doing? So, and Jason Statham is supposed to come back, but I just thought that, getting this filmmaker for this type of movie was an interesting choice. And I wonder if he's just going to go to that style, or if he's going to incorporate that style into his type of filmmaking. So I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this, and just what are your thoughts on, Ben Wheatley doing it, and just the Meg 2 happening in general?
Yeah, I did see the Meg. I didn't see it in theaters though. I saw it at home, and Meg is superior to Jaws. All right, so really excited for.
Okay, so that's all we had time for Chris for today.
That was gonna do that.
That was good. That was good.
I do like both of those movies, but I did think it was really fun. I thought it was pretty silly. I didn't think it needed a sequel, so this is gonna be interesting. I hope it's not like Jaws 2, where, because that movie kind of has a sense of finality by the end, so I don't know if there's really anything they could do with the sequel. So I'm curious to see what they do with it. I don't know anything about Ben Wheatley, so I can't really say anything what he would do. But like in terms of a sequel to the Meg, I wasn't asking for it, but maybe I would want it. I mean, I wasn't asking for a solo Han Solo movie, but I love that movie. So
yeah, there you go. See, that's kind of exactly how I feel about it too. And I got a feeling we're going to be surprised when we watch The Meg 2, that it's not going to be like a impactful drama, but I think that it's going to have bits of characterization to go along with the crazy bombasticness of what's going on. Like, I hope there's 2 Megs, except in a different way from the first movie. Like, we know there's 2 when the film starts. That would be very cool.
Or it would be really cool if they have, this is just an idea I'm thinking, but what if there's like a Meg, and it's like half of the movie, it's like the big thing they have to kill, and then they're getting close to killing it, and it like lashes out, it's about to kill them, and then another megalodon swallows it, and then it's even bigger, and then this is now the thing they have to kill.
Just like the first one.
Just like the first one.
That'd be so great. Going on to our next story. Now, this one was like a small thing that was pulled out of a different headline about MGM. And basically, someone was talking about MGM Studios and like the different decisions they have to make. And then randomly in the bottom, it said upcoming projects that MGM has are Creed 3, which Michael B. Jordan is in talks to direct. And that came from Deadline. And it was like, whoa. Michael B. Jordan's might direct Creed 3? Hold the phone for a second. Because, well, we know that Ryan Coogler wasn't going to come back for Creed 3, and we know that the director of Creed 2 probably wasn't going to come back. We didn't even really know Creed 3 was happening. But Michael B. Jordan has expressed interest in wanting to be a director for a long time. He's produced many projects before and has an understanding. He's good friends with Ryan Coogler. He's made several films with him. He knows sort of how a directing style kind of works. Now, Creed 3, because like I get nervous like when a first-time director directs a movie that has like a huge budget. Like that's what scares me, kind of like Simon Kinberg with Dark Phoenix. I'm like, direct something smaller to kind of get used to the idea first. But the good news about the Creed movies is their budgets aren't crazy. They're relatively small. They're not indie by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not big movies either. And with his experience being in front of the camera with this franchise, I'm just kind of interested. I'm not necessarily nervous. I'm just like, all right, if he does in fact direct Creed 3, which isn't officially confirmed, I'm just curious to see how he can handle that movie and see what he can do with it. How can we see Creed differently through his eyes specifically? So basically, I just wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on Michael B. Jordan just decided to take a swing at directing, if it happens, to take a swing at directing? And do you think that a movie like Creed 3 is the right choice for his first time?
Well, first off, I'll just say I like Michael B. Jordan. There's a lot of things that he's been in that I like. Amazing job in Fan Four Stick, his best role ever.
Just the way you set that up was so good.
But I don't know a lot of what he's been in, and I don't really have the best sort of appeal of him. Just being first off a Fan Four Stick, and then there was also did you ever see the Fahrenheit 451 movie with him in it?
I did not actually.
It was not that good. So
That's what
he
I
was
heard.
okay in it. He was okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that really like sort of sold me on the fact that I'm worried about him was there was a show made a while ago called Genlock. Have you heard of that? Uh, he voiced in it, and the thing is, the show was all right. The problem is he just sounded like he wanted to kill himself every time that he opened his mouth in that show, and that sort of like made me not like him as much because I don't know if he
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't taking it seriously or something.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen him in anything else, so maybe it's kind of like a Ben Affleck sort of situation where he wasn't in a good space when he was doing these roles, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like how Ben Affleck when he was doing Batman,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's going to come back and he's going to be a lot better now, and he's going to start directing again, like how Ben Affleck's doing. And Ben Affleck just is another testament to actors moving to directing and it working with movies like Argo and Gone Girl. So I am excited to see it. I'm a little hesitant just because I don't have the best relationship or appeal of Michael B. Jordan, but I hope that he can bring more to directing than I currently am seeing him in acting.
Gotcha. Yeah. I personally love Michael B. Jordan. He is great in the Creed movies. He was excellent in Black Panther. He was really good in a movie called Fruitvale Station, and which was also made by Ryan Coogler, based on true story. Really good. I didn't see Just Mercy personally, but everyone I've talked to who did see it said that he did a good job in that film. So I really like him as an actor. I'm jealous of his body. Like, it upsets me what just a great looking man he is, and it's very quite aggravating. But I do think that him stepping behind the camera is going to be an interesting choice, and at least he's doing it in an IP that he's familiar with and has done twice. So that even it's the hard job of a director of like having to understand characters and motivations and story, at least he's in a world that he's played with before. So we'll see how it goes if he does decide to do that.
Excuse me for one moment, but I just want to say I completely forgot he was in Black Panther, and he did really good in that movie. And now I feel bad for saying that I don't like him when he was really good in that movie.
No, you're good. It also just depends on what you see, right? Like, it's kind of like
I haven't seen Creed, so.
Gotcha. No, but it's kind of like the Robert Pattinson thing. Like there's tons of people that like if all you know Robert Pattinson from is Twilight, then you're going to be like, oh, I'm not really excited about his Batman. But then you're like, well, have you seen Lost City of Z? Have you seen The Lighthouse? Have you seen Rover? Have you seen Good Time? And you start naming all these movies, and then people are like, no, I haven't seen those. And it's like, give those a watch, and then give me your opinion on him as Batman. And they quickly change, especially after that first trailer. But it's just kind of that thing that happens.
Kind of like just throwing another one, kind of like how people feel about Shia LaBeouf. Because they know him. Oh, that guy who talked bad about Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones. But did you see Honey Boy? Did you see Holes? I thought he was good in Holes.
He was very good. Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen.
Transformers 5, The Last Night.
Yeah. Oh my God. Transformers 2 is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But that's a conversation for another day.
It's the second. I mean, it's the second best in the series. So.
My God. Okay, moving on to the next story. And these No, you're good. What was it?
I'm 3 in a row right now for triggering you.
I know. You have that button. Yeah. These last two stories are the juiciest ones, the ones I was really interested in talking about. And that is this first one I'm pulling from Variety, but it was reported by several different outlets. Apparently, some streamers like Netflix, Apple, and Amazon specifically went to MGM, the people who produced the James Bond film No Time to Die, and they were like, hey, we want to buy No Time to Die. And MGM was like, probably not going to happen. And then the services were like, oh, come on, we'll pay a lot. And they were like, oh, yeah? The conversation starts at $600 million. And they were like, fine. And they just left. So, but I kind of wanted to break this decision down a little bit. First of all, the fact that Netflix even approached, or Netflix, Amazon, Apple even approached MGM to buy James Bond just goes to show you the crazy world that we're living in right now and how bad it can be for, movie theaters and things of that nature. But thankfully, MGM and the Broccolis, yes, the producers of the James Bond movies, their last name is Broccoli. The Broccolis have brains and they understand that not a good idea. But why, if you're wondering, like 600 million, why like the 600 million tag? Well, if you look at a movie like Skyfall made $1.1 billion at the box office. And when you take out the cut for the theaters, which is about a third of that, when you take out the marketing expenses, when you take out the stuff that goes to the distribution, which, because MGM doesn't distribute, I think they only produce, the cut that MGM got was about $550, $600 million. So if they're going to sell James Bond, they're going to get that back, their usual profit that they're used to, because this film cost $250 million to make, which is insanity. But yeah, so of course you can't sell it for anything less than that. So the fact that they were smart and stuck to their guns and they're like, all right, conversation starts here if you're even thinking about buying this movie. But it also goes to show that once movie theaters get through this hump, like once it gets through to where blockbusters are being released again, that things are going to be okay, because these studios are still committed to theatrical releases unless these streaming services are willing to pay stupid price tags, which is not likely. They're willing to pay up for movies that were going to be released in theaters, but there's movies like romantic comedies, like Borat 2, like things like that, and which was amazing. And you know, just that kind of thing. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on, you know, MGM and the Broccolis kind of shutting down the streaming services about this, and just, you know, what do you think about the fact that we live in a world where they had the guts to even go to MGM and say, we'd like to buy James Bond?
Okay, first, I'm really happy about that, because, you know, we need movies in theaters, because I want to go see movies in theaters, because that's really fun. And so I'm happy that they turned down the whole streaming thing, especially with so many movies going to streaming, and the movies that aren't going to streaming failing, like New Mutants. Like Tenet didn't fail, but it definitely didn't succeed. So I'm happy that they're sort of standing their ground, because I could see a lot of studios seeing the very low numbers of a lot of the new theater movies and sort of being like, oh, well, we gotta go to streaming. But I like that they're sticking with their guns, and that they know that, you know, that we'll eventually get over this, and that, you know, hopefully it'll be back to, you know, more theatrical release than streaming movies. I, like you and like a lot of other people, really like going to the theater, and hope that you know, stays alive. I really hope that Black Widow gets released in theaters and doesn't go to Disney Plus, because that's going to be that will probably be one of the movies that pulls a lot of people back, because they want to know what happens in the MCU.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and because like with the whole like putting movies on Disney Plus and just streaming services, you know, some like Disney recently announced, that we even covered it on the show, that their number one priority is now Disney Plus. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to put blockbusters on Disney Plus, because they really blew the Mulan experiment badly. They botched that so bad. Because like, here's the thing: were people upset that they had to be Disney Plus subscribers and pay $30 to get it? Yes. I understand you're upset, but I also understood Disney being like, listen, this movie cost $200 million, so we have to try to get this back. The problem is they did not get nearly the numbers that they wanted. I read a source recently. It's not 100% reliable, so that's why I didn't make it like a topic, but because they had Borat, or streaming numbers for Borat and Mulan, and I think they're called StreamBot or something, and they had Borat at 1.6 million viewers its first weekend, and Mulan at 1.1. So it's like, that's a lot of people, but that translates roughly, if everyone who streamed that movie would have went to the theaters, that's like a $11 million opening weekend. But if you added the $30 price tag, then it's about a $33 million opening weekend. And it's like, that's still not what you needed for Mulan. Now, where Disney messed up is then they put it on regular PVOD for $30. And then Disney Plus subscribers were like, oh, so I could have just waited 60 days and paid $30 without signing up for Disney Plus. And then Disney was like, that was a big mistake on our part, which is why they got smart with Soul. They're just putting on Disney Plus for free. Now, Soul is also an expensive movie, so that's going to be a bite, but they also understand the amount of money and revenue they can make on a movie like Black Widow. No way it'll happen. That would be like financial suicide if they put Black Widow on Disney Plus. But each day that it's not in theaters, that possibility increases by small integers, which is scary. But I'm glad that MGM, like you said, stood their ground and was just like, yeah, you guys are crazy unless you want to give us a stupid amount of money. Like, it's kind of like I have some really old vintage comic books, and every now and then some friends will come over and be like, oh, how much do you want for that comic? I'll be like, $50,000. And they're like, I obviously don't have $50,000. I'm like, I realize that, but that's how much it would take for me to actually give this to you. Like, that's how important it is to me. And I think that in a much more serious and exaggerated version is MGM doing that to the streaming services. So I thought that was fascinating, and it does give me hope that, that they're committed to the theatrical exhibition. So, yes. And the final story, Chris, is probably what I'm going to make the title of this video. So anyone who's watching who's never really watched before, this is why you clicked. You're welcome. Disney Plus, or Disney, Marvel, are making a Moon Knight TV show. And according to all of the sources, they have finally cast Moon Knight, Mark Spector, and it is going to be Oscar Isaac. And it's going to be developed and written by Jeremy Slater, who is one of the developers of the Umbrella Academy TV series. So, Chris, I'll let you kind of take this one first. What are your thoughts on Oscar Isaac being cast as Moon Knight?
First, before I say that, I just gotta say, really, really excited for I forget the name of the person you said, but the person who was doing Umbrella Academy doing this.
Yes.
Because I personally really, really liked Umbrella Academy.
Oh, me too.
I hope they bring, because like superhero media is obviously the most popular media in the world right now, not just movies, but also there's a lot of shows and stuff, and Disney Plus is about to get a lot more of those with like WandaVision and Falcon Winter Soldier, and then now Moon Knight. And I hope that they bring the thing that made Umbrella Academy great, which is that it was so different, it was so weird, and it was like taking the idea of like, it's a family of superheroes but they all hate each other, and I hope they take that idea and bring it to Moon Knight. Kind of like how they took Daredevil in the Netflix show and like made it like super real. Not to say that they should make Moon Knight super dark and bleak, but it should be like, it should be a different, it shouldn't be a normal superhero movie, because Moon Knight is very weird.
Yeah, and to that, as you know, and people watching this, Moon Knight, but for those of you who don't know, Moon Knight is a character that is like a superhero basically with schizophrenia, who has multiple personalities, which is something that we haven't really seen before. So just pretty much, if in like a SparkNotes version, picture if Batman had multiple personalities, and that's Moon Knight. And that's a very basic comparison, but you know what I mean. It's going to be interesting to see, and with a writer who's used to making a very unique kind of superhero type show, I think hopefully that'll transfer quite well. And Marvel's very good at picking the people behind the scenes as to who's going to tell their stories. And with Kevin Feige now being in charge of Marvel TV, he's going to be like, you better do this right, or I will put the Marvel snipers on your ass so fast. So, I think it's an excellent choice as well. And Oscar Isaac, what an amazing choice.
Yeah, if they don't do a good job, they'll find a chopped off Beta Ray Bill head in their bed.
Nice pull. Pull.
Or I could have just said Christian Bale. I mean, they're the same person. But anyway.
I see what you did there. Good speculation.
But anyway, about Oscar Isaac, I completely dodged that question. But I didn't really want to say a lot because I don't know a lot about Oscar Isaac. I mean, I only know him for two things, and that's Poe Dameron and Apocalypse. And if you know anything about me, Apocalypse is my least favorite X-Men movie, and it's one of my least favorite movies ever made. And I feel like a big part of that is Apocalypse. And I hope they don't like do the CG costume. I know they're probably going to do a real one, because that's the whole point. I mean, if there's one thing Green Lantern taught us, it's that you can't have a CG. If you make a movie and then somebody makes a movie making fun of your movie, Deadpool, then you made a bad decision. So just don't make a CG costume. Make it the whole white thing. Give him the like crescent moon darts that he throws at people. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, and if you are gonna add CG to the costume, make it so that it's like enhancing the costume and not the entire costume.
Yeah, like you could even do something, because he has like a full face mask, right? Like Deadpool. You could do like the CG sort of mask, kind of like what they did with Deadpool, so that it looks like, so you can see his expressions through the face. Again, I don't really have much else to say about Oscar Isaac. I hope he does it because I might not have liked him as Apocalypse, but I do think Poe Dameron was one of the better parts of the sequel Star Wars movies.
Yeah, and as an actor, like he got his big break on the Coen Brothers movie Inside Llewyn Davis. He's been in Ex Machina. Like he was in a movie I love that all my friends hate, but I love, called Annihilation, and I thought he was excellent in that movie. So I think it's a really good casting choice. But like we mentioned earlier, that's all going to change perspective on just what you've seen them in. But I personally think that you won't be let down, Chris. I think he's going to do a great job.
I need to see. I forget the movie it is, but it's he's in it and he plays like he's like a singer or something like that, and he has a guitar.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Inside Llewyn, that's the one I need to see because I've heard that movie is amazing.
Yes. All right, so for the movie news portion of the show, that's going to be the end wrap of that. But, ladies and gentlemen, now that I have Chris on the show, I want you guys to get to know him a little bit more better. That was not a good sentence. I really need to work on that. I promise I write things. Anyway, Chris, my first question for you is just like, what aspect of filmmaking are you most interested in, and like if you were going to pursue filmmaking, like what's the aspect of it that you would be most interested in pursuing yourself? What appeals to you most about this particular aspect of filmmaking?
Okay, the short answer is I really like writing. I don't consider myself a writer, though I do like to occasionally write little stories and stuff. And it's interesting because you said like your favorite aspect of film, but the thing is, I don't, and you might hate me for saying this, but I don't have an attachment to film in particular. I just like all forms of storytelling. And a big part of that is writing. So just, I guess the simplest way of saying it would be just the idea of storytelling is what I love about it. I like how you can create multiple things. That's like one of my favorite movies of all time is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because of how many things they pull into that movie. I just love that you can do so many different things in a story.
Yeah,
that might...
when you write, you're creating a world, and you're literally like the creator and enabler of that entire world. And people don't really understand like the power you have when you write something is it's literally creation at its beginning. And so I can definitely see the appeal to that. And, all the forms of storytelling, you have animation, you have books, you have podcasts, not this kind of podcast, but there's podcasts, there's radio, movies. So yes, as you astutely pointed out, my particular one is with film. That's just my favorite avenue of storytelling. But I like the perspective of you just like to write and you're just attached to the overall idea of storytelling. It's very interesting to me.
I guess that would be really all I have to say. Sorry that you were going to go on. I didn't really have much else to say there. I do like also directing. I'm doing... I do theater right now, like class, and it's like live theater, and that it's obviously different than filmmaking. But one of the things I'm doing is there's a project you can do where you pick a scene from a play, and you pick actors, and you pick costumes and sets and everything, and you're the director basically, and you have to direct the whole scene, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm really enjoying it thus far. Tomorrow's actually when I'm getting judged on it, so we'll see how that goes.
Nice. I'm sure you're gonna do great.
Yeah, I also love, I already said I love writing, and because another category that you can work on is playwriting, and I wrote a play for it and everything, and I'm going to get that judged too. So, and again, like I don't have a particular marriage to film, so I, also like to do live theater and everything like that. Just the art of performance.
Yeah, I guess you could say you have no particular marriage story. Come on, say something so the camera can see your face.
All right, fine. That one was. I'd give it about a 7 out of 10. I'd say that much.
Thank you very much. All right, throwing this next question at you. While you're not particularly married to the idea of filmmaking as your avenue of storytelling, I do know that you love movies, just from all the conversations I've had with you. So I guess my next question would simply be, I don't obviously look off camera to look at the questions that I prepared, but no. What movie or movies inspired your love of watching movies?
Okay, so first off, I'm just going to throw this one out there because I throw this one out there anytime people talk about if they use the word favorite or good or most in a sentence and then movies in the same sentence. I always have to talk about Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, because that is not only my favorite movie ever made, that is one of the most important movies that I've ever seen. It's really good, obviously, but it's one of those movies that you always remember just knowing. Like people oftentimes feel that way about Star Wars. Like they always just know Darth Vader is Luke's father. It's never like they don't remember having a moment where that was a big reveal for them. That's kind of how I feel about Pirates of the Caribbean. It was just always a movie that I knew and loved and saw, and I'd watch it like every week. My sister hated me because I always wanted to put that movie on.
It's okay. She hates me too.
Yeah. And she would. It was just an interesting movie, and like if I were to rate like my favorite performances, I think Johnny Depp would be up there as just Jack Sparrow. I mean, it's sort of the Die Hard effect, where after Die Hard came out, which is another movie that like I also loved, it's a great action movie, but after Die Hard came out, there were a lot of movies made that were just meant to be, well, it's just Die Hard but different. I feel like there were a lot of characters made after Pirates that were supposed to just be like, oh, it's Jack Sparrow, he's quirky and he's weird, but they never understood what made Jack Sparrow great. Another movie, real quick, this is just one because I like a lot of different aspects of storytelling and film, obviously, but I really like comedy probably the most. And one of the ones that has just always stuck with me, and it's so funny because I haven't actually seen it until recently. This movie just stuck with me on like a comedic level, was The Nice Guys, written by Shane Black.
Yes. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, that movie
so
was
good.
that movie was one of those movies that like I think I can only name like one other movie that like I watched and I was like actually taking notes because I was like, this is how you write comedy. It was so funny.
And just to stroke my ego, where did you possibly hear about what this movie was or how to watch it?
Oh, I have a friend who owns it. He showed me it.
Oh yeah, is that what happened?
Yeah, and then there was also this podcast called The Movie Nights that did a list of good movies, and one of them was The Nice Guys, and I was like,
there you go, you bastard.
I was like, I like Iron Man 3, I like Lethal Weapon, and then after that, I was like, yeah, I think Shane Black is my favorite living filmmaker. I think he actually is, because I love Lethal Weapon, and he wrote those. I need to see The Predator because I've heard that movie is garbage, but it's amazing.
I don't listen to anyone who says it's garbage. I like a handful of people on the planet love that Predator movie, and I'm one of them. It is so Shane Black and so good. But yeah, but everyone else in the world hates it, so I get it. But yeah, and also just going back to your thing about Johnny Depp and Pirates of the Caribbean. People forget Johnny Depp was nominated for an Oscar for that first movie because his performance was so good. And you got anything else you want to say before I move on to the next part?
Last movie I'll be really quick about. This one was the anime film Your Name. I love that movie. Obviously, I literally begged you to watch it because I love it so much. It's to me it is the perfect. It's not only the perfect love story, but it's also just the perfect story. Like I can't find anything I don't like about that movie, and it's the only movie that I've ever seen that I would say is perfect. I know there are a lot of things that annoy you about it, but I just love that. And that's just sort of the movie that I watch it and it just makes me feel so happy to be alive.
Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all I want to say.
I was going to say, it's a great film. And also, I forgot to tell you this, so I'm glad we're doing this now. My cinematographer and good buddy, Heiler, finally watched Your Name. And he loved it so much that he called me the next day and said he saw Weathering with You, which I still have not seen. So he hopped on that shit real quick and saw Weathering with You. So he loved it that much. So it's getting around. My circle of friends are now starting to watch it because of you. So thank you.
You need to see Weathering with You because I think you'll like it more. It's
I know
very
that's what I've heard.
It's very similar to Your Name, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's too similar to Your Name. It's not good." But like, it's enough different that like. I mean, just a testament. I'm not going to show you, but like literally, my screensaver is one of the posters for Weathering with You because I loved it so much.
Nice. All right, going on to the next question. Because like when people ask me, for example, like, oh, like what are movies you like? It's a difficult question because there are some movies I like just because I like watching that movie or I like the story of that movie. And then there's some movies I like because every time I watch it, it makes me want to go make something. It makes me want to go make a movie every time I watch movie A or movie B, they have different impacts on me. So my question for you is, are there any particular films that inspired you to want to do things in the storytelling realm? Are there any movies where as soon as you watched it, you're like, yeah, I could do that. I could write a story. And then suddenly like the wall was broken down from like viewer to creator. Like, were there any movies that did that for you?
Yeah, I just listed 3 of them, but sorry, I guess I kind of misinterpreted your last question.
No, you're good. You're good.
Those 3 movies, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Nice Guys, and Your Name, are usually the movies that I always say, like, those are the movies that make me want to become a filmmaker. But also there are some other ones. Don't worry, I'm not out. Like, I also loved a lot of more recent movies. Like, I loved Ford v Ferrari, and just that there's so many sequences in that movie. Like, I have it on my movies anywhere, and I just watched this clip back. It's this one scene in Daytona in the middle. That whole sequence. I love that. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in any movie. And just watching that scene, I get so excited watching that, and I'm just like, I want to do that for someone else. I want to be able to create a scene that makes, like, that feeling you get like in your stomach when it feels like butterflies. That whole scene, that whole idea is just something I want to make. And another one really quick. This one I like just thought of, but a movie like Get Out. That's another more recent. I'm mentioning a lot of more recent ones just because
that's kind
okay. This is the ones that I've seen more recently.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I really like that movie because I'm not into horror a lot. But I did dabble in it more recently, and one of the first ones that got me into it was Get Out, because I was like, this is a really good story that is scary. And I'm like, that's a really cool idea, is that you make a really good story that then scares you, instead of making a movie that's scary that doesn't have a good story. That's why I don't like a lot of horror movies. Like great movie here that this kind of leads into the same question, the 2018 Truth or Dare. Love that movie. That movie is one of the ones where it's like, this is everything you don't do, and that's why I like it. I watched that movie and I'm like, this is what I shouldn't do, so I know now what not to do.
Yeah, and trust me, each filmmaker and just people in storytelling will tell you, like, there are certain things that they like because of that reason of like, that movie always holds a special place in my heart because it taught me what I shouldn't do.
Yeah. And there are other things like that. And real quick, I know this is meant to be movies, but can I quickly just throw out one show that really inspired me?
You're good.
I believe I've talked to you about it. It's called Ruby.
Yes, you have.
And it was made by Rooster Teeth. And the thing, I saw this like right when I was hitting the point, like, you have that point in your life when you realize you are really passionate about something. And when I realized I was really into movies and storytelling and that kind of stuff was when I started seeing Ruby. And it's just it's such a good love letter, because it was created by one person, and it was his passion project. And that's what I love about it. And it was, and the thing that's always special about that movie to me is, or not movie, show, wrong thing. But the thing that's always special about that show for me is that it is the first thing that ever got me to pick up a pencil and started writing. Because the thing about it is that it has a really interesting world that isn't explored well. And so I was like, I'm just going to create some random characters and throw them into the world. And then before I knew it, I had like a 5-page story. And I was like, whoa, I just actually wrote something. And then from there, I got into like writing a bunch of other stuff. But that was the first thing that like I consciously created a story in my mind from that. So it'll always hold a special place in my heart for that.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And that's the kind of shit I like to hear, is that's the scientific way of putting it. So yeah, no, that was awesome. I dare say that was beautiful, Chris. So thank you for that. Next question. Are there any hidden gems that not enough people have seen that you recommend? What are movies that you have seen that you're tired of bringing up and no one at the dinner table saying that they've seen them? What are those gems, Chris?
Okay. I have 3, if you'll bear with me. I wish I could have, because I just, like, as we started talking, I realized this movie I wanted to talk about. And I have a poster for it, and I wish I could go get it. It's a movie that came out in 2018 called Robin Hood. And I have talked to you about this movie.
Yes, you have talked to me about this.
I don't know what it is about this movie. There is something about this movie that like encapsulates me that nobody else does. Because I have a lot of people who've seen this movie, and I've seen a lot of other, like, you know, YouTube critics and stuff talk about it, and there is not a single person, like, you know, you mentioned, oh, there's, you know, like 7 people that like Predator, oh, there's a few people that like King Arthur. There is not a single person I have ever met that has liked this movie. And it's strange to me, and it's like, I don't get what it is about the movie. It's like, it's not awful. Like, it's very cliche, I'll give you that. There's a really, really bad, like Alita Battle Angel level bads of romantic subplot. But the thing that's great about it is it has some of the, like, the best action in any movie, because they didn't do like quick cut bow, oh, like fires the arrow, then sees the arrow flying and then flies into the wall. No, like, they did like up close. Taron Egerton learned how to shoot archery. He like, and they have like all these tricks, like he shoots a guy through the mask and then grabs his head, pulls it through the bars of a jail cell to grab his keys, opens the keys, pulls the arrow out, shoots another guy, flips off of a building, down a ramp, onto a wire, cuts the wire, and flies out of a building. Like, and it's like all in one take too. It's like this just bombastic scenes.
That's all you had to tell me when you first brought the movie up, and I would have watched it the next day. So now I gotta order this on Prime.
And then there's, I have it on Blu-ray if you want to borrow it. I have it on Movies Anywhere, actually, if you want to get the digital. But there's like a whole, and then there's a whole scene where he jumps off of a building onto a hay truck and he's riding away, and Jamie Foxx is driving. Yeah, Jamie Foxx is in the movie. I don't know if you know that. He's also really good. He's like driving away and they're getting chased, and he's like, what are we gonna do? And he like lights a match and sets gasoline on fire to block them and everything. It's just like this, there's just so many crazy, bombastic, amazing stunts in that movie that, like, I don't care if the story is pretty subpar. It's just really fun. And then sorry, awesome. I spent a lot of time talking about that because nobody likes that movie.
The thing is, I could tell that it was resting on your soul, and you're like, finally a chance to do this.
because the thing, and I will never forget this for as long as I live. But I was listening to people talk about that movie, and they were like criticizing it and everything, and I was like, it's fine, whatever. And then the thing that always grinds my gears was when one of them was talking about, they were talking about, there's one scene where they're like fighting and they're doing like archery and stuff, and he was like upset. He was like, that wouldn't happen, you bring some swords to fight and everything. And I was kind of like, whatever, that's a critique. And then they're laughing, and then this is my favorite thing that he said. He goes, trust me, I know this, like why they should have swords, I know this. I've played enough Assassin's Creed to know it. I will never forget that for as long as I live.
And was he saying it like ironically, or was he like being for real?
Like, I think he was meaning it for real. And the problem isn't that he said that. The problem is that he didn't take a second to go, I'm just meaning in terms of stage combat. I'm just meaning that if you are staging it, swords are more interesting. Not bows. He could have just said that and I would have been like, whatever. But the fact that he was like, I know for a fact that people in olden times were like Lord of the Rings characters. I know that. And I was like, oh God, that's just one of those things. Sorry, I've taken forever talking about this movie, but that's just,
you're good. Don't even worry about it.
That's just something that I heard, and I like, how do you think that in your head? And I don't know. Anyway, moving on. I have 2 more movies I want to talk about. One of them,
do tell.
Because Halloween, I want to talk about a horror movie. One of the ones that I don't hear get talked about enough. It was another more recent movie called The Boy. Have you seen that movie?
I haven't seen it, but I have heard of it.
Okay. It's pretty mediocre, I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of an average movie. The thing that's great about it is it has a really good twist. It has, because if you've seen the trailers for that movie, you know what it's about. It's about like a haunted doll who's haunting a girl, but the thing is, that's not what the movie's about. I'm not going to spoil it because there's a really good twist, but that's not what the movie's about. And it has a really good job of doing like a magician's trick where it's like, this is what the movie's about, but this is actually what it's about. And it's sort of, if you watch that movie a second time, you catch on to what's actually happening. And so it's really rewatchable.
I love when movies can do that.
I love a good twist and everything. I also love The Sixth Sense, so obviously I love twists. And it just does that really well. You know, it's also really good. It's just a really good horror movie. It understands all that. It's a pretty, in the beginning, especially on your first time viewing, you're like, oh, this is just another, you know, bland movie. But then by the end, you're like, that was really interesting. It's a really interesting movie to rewatch because there's so many things that you start to catch on to upon second viewings. And it's another one of those movies that got me into horror movies because I didn't like them for a while. It was like that movie, Halloween, and Get Out, I guess, would be like the three movies that sort of I watched and it was like, horror movies can be good. I never thought that.
There you go. No, I mean, and all it takes is one, you know, because like it's kind of like people who don't like roller coasters because they've never been on one, and then they go on a roller coaster and they're like, oh, that wasn't bad. And it's like, yeah, see, they can be not bad sometimes. And that doesn't mean that there are some roller coasters that suck, because there certainly are, and certainly ones that'll make you throw up. But yeah, you know, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, you didn't have to call me out like that, you know.
But I didn't even realize that. I started.
But anyway, last thing, talking about magicians. The last movie I want to talk about is another movie about magicians called Now You See Me. Have you seen this movie?
I haven't, but my buddy Nick, who you've met, loves this movie, but I haven't watched it.
It's true. Speaking to how they're unseen gems because you haven't seen any of them and you watch everything, right? But this movie,
call me out like that.
This movie is one of the great. It's one of my favorite movies just because it's so fun because it's about this idea of like magicians. Like it's like a heist movie with magicians, and so like there's so many great sequences where it's kind of like The Boy in it that there's a lot of things happening and by the end it tries to explain it all and you can go back and watch it and catch on to the little things that are happening and it makes it really rewatchable. It's one of my favorite movies. Like it's one of my dad's favorite movies and he doesn't like any movies and he just loves to rewatch that. It's really fun. It does a really good, it has a really good, the best thing I would say, it had really good scenes. Like there's this one scene where, if you don't know, one of the main plot points is that they're magicians, and during one of their shows, they rob a bank, and then they get like arrested and called into questioning. And there's one scene where they're all getting questioned, and there's a great scene where the like detective character who throughout the movie is trying to arrest them, because they do like other like heist type things, and he's trying to arrest them. He's like talking to him about how like, you know, you're all smug and everything, and like I'm gonna, as soon as you break, I'm gonna get under there and, you know everything you're doing. And he's just sitting there like, you know, the thing is, magicians work on the audience expecting them to know everything. So as close as you get to me, as close as and as much as you think you know about the situation, I will always be 1 step, 6 steps, 7 steps ahead of you. Like this whole scene where he's just talking about how no matter what you do, I will always be ahead of you. And then he freaks out and like smashes the table, and then he's holding handcuffs, the magician, and he like smacks it, and then the handcuffs flip onto the detective's hands. And then he's like, oh, how did that happen? And he looks over and opens up this like can of soda, and the key like just falls out of the thing. And then he says one of my, and there's so many scenes like that where just like this constant misdirection. And then there's a great scene where he and then afterwards he says one of the film's best lines where he's like, the first rule of magic, you always be the smartest guy in the room. And then that's like one of the third lines throughout. It's also got really, really great performances. You know, that was Jesse Eisenberg. I probably should have said that. Like, there's Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Dave Franco, and Isla Fisher are the 4 magicians. Okay. And then Mark Ruffalo is the detective trying to catch them.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so, yeah, it's really good. The only problem I have with it is that the thing that's great about it is it takes this idea of magic, because there's another character in the movie, Morgan Freeman, who lives off of like revealing how magicians do their tricks, and like he makes shows about that and like shows you what they do. And that's like breaking the magician's code, because if you don't know, this thing they talk about called the magician's code, where you never reveal how you do your tricks. And he sort of broke that, so like all the other magicians around the world sort of don't like him because he does that. And he's constantly throughout trying to figure out what they're doing, and like the police come to him and he explains how they do it all. And they have a constant, they have a great way of them doing things that look impossible, and then having Morgan Freeman explain it, and then as the audience you're like, oh, I didn't think about that. However, there are sequences in the movie where they do things that shouldn't be possible, and then they never explain it. Like there's one scene where like I'll just say this, there's one scene where they jump off a building and turn into cards, and they never explain it. I think the implication was that there was some sort of like they were holograms or something. I don't know, but like they just never. There's a lot of sequences where it's like, really, that like it suspends your disbelief too far. But
gotcha.
it's super fun if you don't think about it like that.
Yeah, no, I gotcha. So yes, thank you for putting each of those films on my radar. Definitely things I must check out. And that's that's where the real passion comes out, is when just you're trying to sell this movie that you had this great experience with to share with somebody else. And thank you for doing that. And the last question, unless I come up with something sneaky, is and this is one I was the most excited to talk about, because we're going to share obviously some stories back and forth here. But you and I, something that we both agree on is there's nothing quite like the theatrical movie going experience, especially in terms of just watching content. Going to the movies is where I'm at my happiest, the movie theater specifically. And I wanted to know, in your lifetime, what are some of your favorite theatrical movie going experiences?
Okay, I have one right off the bat that I gotta talk about, and that was when I saw Wonder Woman in 2017.
Okay.
I saw that. First off, it was one of the only movies I've seen in a packed theater.
Okay.
Like there was literally everyone everywhere, and we almost didn't have enough seats for everyone there.
Gotcha.
And it was just a great experience because I believe you say the same thing about, was it X2? Was the movie where people started clapping halfway through, because that's the same movie where it wasn't so much clapping. It was the No Man's Land sequence where she runs through it all. And
you said No Man's Land, and I got chills.
And then we were all into it, and then the final shot where she jumps on the thing and crashes into the tower. My entire theater started yelling, like it was like Endgame big. And I was looking around because I was like 15 at the time. I was looking around like, oh, I didn't know people did this. And then just some other ones real quick. Another one, this actually was this year, was when I saw The Gentleman. I actually saw that movie twice. First time it was already fun. I saw it with a friend of mine. It was really funny. We still like make jokes from that movie because we have some inside jokes about that.
And it's a great movie.
And then I saw it again because recently near me a Cinemark opened up. And one of the things they did is that everyone in our neighborhood got free passes to come for like an opening party where you could see free movies and stuff to spread goodwill. And I went there with a friend of mine and my dad. And, my dad doesn't really like movies, but he was going to do it. And they had a couple movies showing, and one of them was The Gentleman. And my friend really wanted to see that. And I'd already seen it. And I was like, yeah, it's good. We can watch it. And my dad was kind of, a little hesitant about it. Because I had talked to him about what it's about after I'd seen it originally, and we watched it, and I obviously loved it. My friend really loved it, and she was a big fan. We were laughing about it. But my dad, I love it because he still says this. He went into that movie being like, oh, this is gonna be so boring, and he's like, and then he left it being like, that was one of my favorite movies ever made. It's so fun to hear him talk about that movie because he's one of those people that doesn't really like movies, and he's not passionate about it or anything, but just hearing him, and that was sort of the movie, because from that point on he started watching more other movies, because and it was that same movie and Jojo Rabbit, because he didn't want to see Jojo Rabbit with me, and he said he'd really like that movie. So he came out of that movie and was like, I'm gonna stop sort of passing judgment on movies that I haven't seen. And it was because of that we watched La La Land with him, and we watched Marriage Story and a bunch of other movies that he said he didn't want to watch, but he was like, I'll give him a chance. And so just the fact that now my father will watch more movies with me that he wouldn't usually, because of that experience, is amazing.
We got one.
No,
that's awesome. So, and please continue. There's no time limit on this. I want to hear about all these experiences.
There weren't a lot of other ones. Obviously, I could talk about Endgame because everyone had a great experience with that. There isn't many other ones. The only other one that I can really think of right now is another one that came out this year, surprisingly, was when I saw Weathering with You, because I saw that with two other people in the theater.
Interesting.
And it was funny because I recognized both of them because they both went to my school and we were kind of the same age. They're like those people you pass by in the hall, but you don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
And we actually, halfway through, we started talking, and I kind of moved to sit next to them, and we just watched the movie together. And I haven't talked to them in a while, but just that moment where you like these two strangers that I don't really know, we just start talking, and like, because we were the only people in the theater and just enjoying this movie because they'd also seen Your Name, they loved it. That's great. A more recent one, when I saw, this is another one of those classics because they're bringing classic back, when I saw Raiders in theaters, because I forgot to mention when we talked about influential films, I love Raiders of the Lost Ark because that's one of my favorite action movies and just amazing movie overall. Indiana Jones is one of my favorite movie characters to ever exist. But when I saw that movie, like you see a movie 1,000 times and then you watch it in theaters and then you catch things you don't catch, and that was the thing that was great about it. Like I caught on to so many things that I didn't catch when I've seen Raiders like 1,000 times, but like watching it in theaters, there were so many things that I noticed that I didn't notice before. Like one of the things, just for instance, I didn't know that Belloc was French. I always thought that he was just a German Nazi.
Yeah.
And I thought like, oh, that's an interesting character thing because he's like not a Nazi, so he's not affiliated with them. He just wants to find artifacts.
Yeah,
that makes him interesting. That was good. The only other one I can think of right now was, I forgot it, and oh yeah, it was the last one I'll talk about was when I saw How to Train Your Dragon, which is another one of my favorite movies because that was actually the first movie I ever saw in an IMAX theater.
Nice.
And I just remember being blown away by it, and just the dragons, and so cool. And I was like, I think 10 or 11 at the time, so it captures the mind of a young kid like that.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. And in terms of some of my favorite movie going experiences, I'll bring up the first IMAX movie I ever saw. The first movie I ever saw in the IMAX was The Dark Knight, and just how lucky that happened to be the one. And because I remember my cousin was taking me, because I was 12 years old when that movie came out, and my cousin was taking me because my cousin lived in Ohio at the time. Well, he still does. And I was visiting him, and I was like, pretty much wouldn't shut the hell up the whole day before about wanting to go see this movie because it was the opening weekend. And he was like, hey, let's go tomorrow, just you and me. And I was like, all right, great. And like from where we came from, we grew up in like smaller towns. So like waiting in line for a movie or like being sold out of a movie was like unspoken territory to us. So we show up at this theater, I believe it was in Madison, Ohio, and like packed lines like outside the door. And this is really before reserved seating. And we were like, oh no, like we might not see this. And he's worried because I'm a kid, and he's like, this kid's gonna cry on the way home if we don't watch this movie, so he's like really worried. He's like, I gotta get these tickets. And the IMAX theater did have reserved seating, so he's like, IMAX, what seats do you guys have? And they had 2 in the very back row because people had just canceled. And he was like, yes. And so we got those, and my first IMAX experience was in the back row watching The Dark Knight. So amazing. Yeah. Like I remember when the Joker did that pencil trick, like the entire audience, it was like someone just got burned in a rap battle. Everyone was just like, ooh, when it happened. It was so cool. The first movie where I recall people just clapping at all, it was clapping at the credits of a movie, was the first time I saw Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man when I was like 6 years old. People clapped. And I hadn't been to many movies at that point, but I remembered it because the next movie I saw where people clapped, I was like, oh yeah, they did this in Spider-Man, which was years later. But the first movie I saw where people like during the movie did something, as you mentioned before, was the following year when X2 came out and Wolverine stabbed that guy through the fridge. My place went freaking ballistic when that happened. It was so awesome. The first Avengers movie was pretty like insane. Like I just remember thinking like, this is everything I've ever wanted, and I never knew it was possible, and here I am. Oh my God. Like just I zoned out like the first half of the movie because I just couldn't believe this was a real situation I was in. And that was so good. And just everything about that movie. I cry a lot at the movies. I cried really hard during La La Land when I first saw it. I cried really hard during Logan, infamously. I bawled my eyes out. I cried during Toy Story 3, and I just saw it with my mom. Like it was just me and my mom and I like cried so hard during that movie. And then I also took my mom to see Toy Story 4, and she cried, but I didn't. And it was like, oh, haha, might have turned tables on you. And I remember seeing, I mean, obviously Infinity War, Endgame, those were crazy. But I think in recent memory, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the last half hour, people were going nuts. And honestly, in 2018, Creed 2, during the final boxing match, it was like we were watching a UFC fight. Like my whole theater was just in it. And I was like, dang, like, and the thing is, Creed 2 is really good, but it's not as good as Creed 1. So like, I'm watching it and I'm like, wow, this is really entertaining. This is a good movie. And then Creed knocks down his opponent and like people stood up, like, yeah, like cheering. And I'm like, oh shit, this just got really fun. So I was with a buddy and we were just like eating up the atmosphere. Yeah. It was so much fun. But you look like you wanted to say something when I mentioned Toy Story 3. So I want to hear what you had to say.
I should really want to quick talk about my experience seeing that for the first time. Because when did Toy Story 3 come out? Because I don't remember how old I was.
I think it was like 2010.
2010.
Like
I think I was like, I had to be like 12 or 11 at that time. And I just remember watching that movie. And I didn't cry. And I wasn't sad. Because this is going to be a really bad confession, but I was terrified watching that movie. Not just because and still to this day, I am so like it's one of those things where like you're afraid of something as a kid and it's so like irrational, but you still are afraid of it because of how it made you feel. I'm just so afraid of Lotso, the little bear. That guy terrified me just because.
That's so funny.
Not for two reasons. First off, as a kid, I don't know what it is, and even to this day, I just hate mind control subplots. So when they mind control Buzz Lightyear, I was literally like covering my eyes because I was terrified. I just hate that subplot. And just that one line, I forget what he says, but it's that one line when Buzz goes to meet all the other toys and everything, and they like ambush him, and Lotso's being all nice, and then he's like, I think he says something like to the effect of like they want to leave or something, and he just like instantly turns on and is like this diabolical person. And I just remember, or like that one scene, oh my god, that one scene when he takes the baby's necklace and like throws it in the trash and is like, we were just trash to her. I was like, oh my god, is this how my toys feel? I feel so bad right now.
Oh my god. And one last one I'll throw in is I remember being 2005, I was 9 when Revenge of the Sith came out. And I remember crying so hard when Obi-Wan was like, you were the chosen one. Because like when I was a kid, I didn't know what bad dialogue was. So I was just like, this is sad. And I remember like being, because I was with my dad. My dad loves Star Wars. I was with him. And I remember, because my dad like never talks during movies, ever. And when Anakin jumped and him and Obi-Wan started fighting, I'm 9 years old. My dad grabbed my shoulder and went, oh shit, when they started fighting. And like, I like vividly remember that because like he never talks during movies. And when that happened, I was like, oh, what just happened? It was so fun.
Mm-hmm. I think there's another one that's leaving me, but that's not really important. The only other one I can think of, sorry, this is just another one off the top of my head because I mentioned anime movies. There was a movie that came out this year called My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. And if you couldn't tell, I like love anime, and I love
no, shocker. I can't believe it.
I literally here, I'll show you if you don't mind. I literally have from My Hero Academia, I have literally a Deku pop.
Nice.
And so I just saw that and that reminded me. If you don't know, a lot of the big thing about anime is it's very over exaggerated, and there's a lot of yelling, and there's a lot of screaming, and there's a lot of big explosions, and that was really present in this movie. And I just remember watching that with my mom, who knows nothing about anime, and she actually really liked it. I love it's kind of an insult when you go see movies with your mom, but I love seeing it because she just she's as excited as me, and I'm one of those people where once you get out of a movie, I just have to talk for like an hour about everything.
Dude, same. I'm the exact same way. Hannah hates it.
Yeah, and my mom actually does that too. She like actually wants to talk about it, and that's weird because and it's actually the funniest thing is that whenever we leave a movie, I always like to give it like a score. She likes to do the same thing.
Yeah, same. Because like, well, I should clarify. Hannah used to hate it, and then now when we see movies, she's the one who starts the conversation. I'm just like, I knew I chose the right one. But yeah, it's fun because like I could never like picture being the type of people who see a movie and then just don't talk about it. Like how how do you function? Like there's no way I'd be able to do that. Like there's no way.
And sorry, this is the last thing I'll talk about. This isn't a theater experience, but I just remember this as a childhood thing. Every year at Christmas, we would always get around the couch, get around the TV, and watch Christmas Vacation. So much so that I actually, until like 2 years ago, didn't know that there was an actual vacation movie. I thought there was just Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, the Christmas Vacation, I think, is the third one.
What? I didn't know that. I thought there was just I'll learn all kinds of things today. But thinking about Christmas Vacation, whenever we'd watch that as a family, there's that one scene. I just love it because I always remember this as a kid. Was I don't know how my dad did this, but he always found the perfect way to do this, which is that we'd always watch Christmas Vacation, and then there'd be that scene at the end when he gets the check and it's like the Jelly of the Month Club and that joke. And then he goes over to his like living room. He's like, you know what? If you could give me one present, it would be my boss here with a big red bow on his head so that I could tell him. And then, you know, he goes into the whole thing where he's screaming all the curses and stuff. And my dad would always, right as soon as he said that, would mute the screen. And so we literally just see Chevy Chase just on screen and we couldn't hear anything. And then he always found the perfect time to unmute it right as soon as he goes, "Where's the Tylenol?" So the joke around our house would be whenever we get mad, we just start going like yelling, but we're not actually saying anything. And then just end with, "Where's the Tylenol?" whenever we were mad.
Oh my God, that is so funny. I did not know that, dude. That's hilarious.
And it wasn't until like I think it was 2 years ago when we watched Christmas Vacation again, he actually didn't unmute it this time. And I was like, wow, I'm glad I didn't hear all those words when I was like 6.
Yeah. It's like, wow, I'm old enough. This is a great day.
Yeah. And he, yeah, I think everyone has that moment when they grow up and like they see R-rated movies or something. And they're like, wow, I can actually watch this. Yeah, like, that was when I saw Joker in theaters. I was like, I am allowed to watch this. That was another great experience because I just remember seeing that with one of my friends. And it was the same friend I saw The Gentleman with, so we kind of have running jokes like this. And he, I just remember when Joker has that line when he shoots, spoilers, when he shoots Robert De Niro. I just remember, you know, that it was like his like final joke and everything. I just remember he shoots him and everyone was quiet, and my friend leans over and goes, "That was the best joke in the whole movie."
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I do have a surprise question for you. That's just because, you know, I love having my ego stroked. What is your favorite movie nights short film?
Short film? I really liked Contrition. I've seen a couple. I've obviously, you showed us No More Safe Haven. I saw Long Hard Day. I saw a lot of the skits, the little shorter ones. Excited to see the local. But yeah, I'd probably have to say Contrition because when I watched, the thing is, when I watched like Long Hard Day and when I watched No More Safe Haven, more so in Long Hard Day, I kind of felt like it was like you could tell it was kind of like an amateur filmmaker, and like that, I don't mean that as like an insult.
Oh, like, no, you're good. I still am.
You can tell
don't
that.
Worry. Don't worry, you're good.
But when I watched Contrition, that was one of the only movies where like I could see this being like an actual feature film. And like just because it wasn't just that, it was like, a good, you know, effort. It was like it actually had interesting things and like interesting camera angles and subversions, and this flips this way and this like shot, and like it actually had good like filmmaking tech underneath the like amateur appeal.
Gotcha. Interesting. See, I have to take these notes so I can apply them to my future projects. So thank you. And that's going to pretty much wrap up today's show. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. And I hopefully at some point in the future I can have you back on again. Yeah. And you need to do the 2000s reviews again. You stopped doing that. I know. I need to get back on that. Those were fun.
or the made up, what did you call it, the R Oscars or something, where you make your own Oscar nominations?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We'll probably end up doing that. That'll be fun. That'll
Mhm.
be really fun. But yes,
Oh, last thing, sorry. I'm
you're
saying
good.
so much right here, but last thing, I know you're not really doing many franchise spotlights because you're doing the local and moving and everything, so I understand that. But throwing it out there, if you want to do another one, you could do the Pirates franchise,
We could. You're
because
absolutely right.
I just rewatched all those movies, and there are 3 good ones and 2 that are very, very bad.
Yes, yes. I actually haven't seen those 2. I've only seen the first 3. So it'd be
You are in
interesting.
luck.
It'd be interesting to go
I
and watch them for the
I
first time.
my favorite thing. Sorry, this is just, if you'll throw this in with theater experiences. I remember seeing the 5th one in theaters because it came out in 2017. I remember seeing that, and then and then I was leaving the theater, and I remember my one thought was, because I went to this movie and I was really excited because it's like, oh, Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley are going to be back. And then as I was leaving that with like Hannah and some of her friends and other people, I remember leaving, and my one takeaway was, when I saw this movie, I was promised that Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom was going to be in this. See him twice.
Gotta love it. Got to love that when that happens.
Anyway, I'll shut my mouth now.
No, dude, you're good. You're good. Hey, man, I really, really appreciated having you on the show. I'm definitely going to have you on again at some point. Thank you so much for being a fan, and thank you so much for stopping by to give your thoughts on everything.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. And that's all we have for today's show, guys, and we'll see you next time.